Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts, and today I'm going to show you how to make this telescopic pop-up card. The inspiration for this came from a picture I saw on Pinterest, and what they'd actually done is add all of the bulky elements to this tier here and added photographs to these additional cubes. I'm going to show you how to make this 3-tier example, but I will also give you the measurements at the end if you want to make a 4th tier. I'm going to give you my hints and tips now before we get into the video. The construction of this particular project means you are limited in relation to the decoration that you can put on the outsides of anything other than the base cube, because you've only got a limited amount of room for your cubes to push down into one another. I would say I would start with one cube and then make the next cube, and once you're happy with the fit, then go on to the next cube. You can certainly make the depths of these tabs here smaller if you need, if you're struggling to get your box in and out. And in fact, I had to slim down the tabs on the top here for the base, for the second box to go in. It's important that you really thoroughly fold and burnish as well, as that will help you get a better fit. If you want a specific decoration on the outside of these, you may choose to stamp and colour your design directly onto your cardstock and not have DSP. That's one way of getting around not having any bulky elements on the outside of these pieces. So they are just the things to watch out for as you go along. I do like to tell you up front the things just to be aware of, as I tend to make just one of these projects at a time, so I too am learning as I go along. Throughout the video you might see things where it looks as if I've taken paper off and restuck it, etc. And yes, that's exactly what I've done. So without further ado, let's get into the project and let's get started. You can make the unit as many tiers high as you wish. I'm going to start with 3 tiers and then I may add a 4th, but what I'm going to do as I go along is I'm going to tell you what you would do in order to add in more tiers, and also how you would adjust the cubes if you want to change the sizes. We're going to start with the top tier, and my top tier is going to be a 2-inch cube. I'm starting with a piece which is 8.5 times 3, and I'm scoring at 2, 4, 6 and 8. So each one of these is a side of our cube. I'm rotating and I'm scoring at 1/2 and 2.5 inches. So if you want to change up the size of your top cube, times the size of it by 4. So for instance, if you want to start with a 3-inch cube, you'd have 3, 6, 9, 12 and then a 1/2 inch tab. Depending on the cardstock you're using and the sizes you choose, you will eventually get to the stage where we need to create deconstructed cubes. So this is tier 1. For tier 2, you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock which are 6.5 by 4 inches. Along the 6.5 inch side, score at 3 inches and 6 inches, and along the 4-inch side we're going to score at 1/2 inch and 3.5 inches. And you'll need to do that twice. Tier 3 is going to be a 4-inch cube. You'll need 2 pieces which are 5 inches by 8.5 inches, and along the 8.5 inch side I'm going to score at 4 and 8. Rotate the cardstock and score at 1/2 and 4.5. So we're now going to go back to tier 1, fold and burnish the score lines. In the end 1/2 inch tab, cut away the 2 outer corners and then cut up the score line within the 1/2 inch tab and cut that as a straight edge. Rotate and do the same on the other side, and then cut a wedge out of the 1/2 inch glue tab. Determine which is going to be your top edge and which is your bottom edge, and you want to fold the top tabs in and the bottom tabs outwards. Add glue to your end glue tab, fold over the first whole section and fold over the side section. Now we're going to create our lid. Your lid will be the same size as the size of the cube. So in this instance, you'll need a square which is 2 inches by 2 inches. Add your DSP to the top of your lid, and whilst that's drying, I'm going to add the DSP to the sides of the top tier. Add your DSP onto the 4 squares. Remember, if you're having directional paper, to add your paper the right way up, but at this stage it doesn't matter really if you get it wrong, because you can just refold the tabs. Do make sure you add glue right up to the corners of the DSP to prevent it from catching as the box moves up and down. Whilst that's drying, I'm going to finish my top lid. Flip it over, take your pencil and ruler and make a pencil mark along the top and the bottom edge at 1 inch, or if you have a different size top tier, halfway across your lid. What we're going to do next is add a slot into the top of the lid through which there will be a tab. Here's an example to show you. You need to give some consideration to what it is you're going to add to the top of your tab as your pull element, maybe an initial or a number. The height of your tab is really going to be determined by the size of your topper. If you're going to have a huge topper, then you would want a longer tab for the support. I'm going to have my support 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'm going to cut a slot 3/4 of an inch long through the centre of my lid like so. And you want to make sure that the slot is wide enough for you to fit 2 layers of your cardstock through. So I've got my slot. So my piece for my tab I've cut to 4 inches, and before I do anything else I'm just going to check that it does fit through my slot, and that fits nicely. I'm going to fold the strip in half and then fold the top layer back on itself and lay the bottom layer under on top of itself to create a W. Poke the folded end through the slot. I'm just going to trim this down so it doesn't stick beyond the edge of the lid. Add glue to the undersides of the tabs and secure those in place. Now obviously if you do find that once you've made this is too short, you can add an extender strip on the top, that's no problem. Take your top tier. I'm going to add a tiny dot of glue just under to help these corners stick down. Fold those over and let those grab. Add my glue to the top tabs and add my lid. Make sure it sits nice and squarely, and then I'm just going to go in the bottom with my score tool, pushing that in gently. Set that aside to dry. For the base we need a square of card which is 3 inches by 3 inches, and if you have a different size tier 1, the size of this needs to be the width of your cube plus the allowance for 2 glue tabs. In the middle you just want to cut a square. I'm just going to eyeball it. It's roughly an inch, actually an inch one side and an inch and a quarter the other. Add glue to the undersides of the bottom tabs and glue your box onto the base. Sit it on squarely, but if you do have any overhang you can cut this off. We're now going to set that aside. So now we have our pieces for tiers 2 and 3 cut. We're going to follow the same process for each tier, but I would recommend you construct and fit tier 2 before you move on to tier 3. Fold and burnish all of the score lines. Take your scissors and with the 1/2 inch tab in front of you, cut away the bottom corners. Cut a wedge to create your glue tab, and then cut up each of the score lines within the 1/2 inch tabs. Do that on both pieces for tier 2 and later for tier 3. Add glue to one of your end glue tabs and join up your two pieces. Take your pencil and ruler, line your ruler up with your 1/2 inch score line and make a pencil line at 1 inch. Do the same along each horizontal score line, marking 1 inch from the vertical score line. The side with the pencil marks indicates the bottom end of the cube. Fold under the tabs to the right of the pencil marks and burnish, as these will sit outwards when the cube is constructed. Lay out your strip. You can, if you would find it easier, join up the pencil marks to create one long line. I'm going to lay my ruler against the pencil marks and use this as my guide. Take your foam tape or foam squares, and if you don't have either of these, you can use layers of cardstock or maybe fun foam if you have that. Basically, what we're going to do now is create a stopper which is going to sit just under the pencil line or ruler, roughly in the middle of each section of the cube. Try to ensure that the foam pieces are in line, as this will help to ensure your cube sits level within the next cube. So this is the bottom edge of our cube. Add glue to the glue tab and fold over to create your cube, and again you will follow the same process for tier 3 and any additional cubes. We're now going to add the base to cube 2. We'll need a piece of cardstock which is 4 inches square. Cut a square out of the middle as we did with tier 1. Add glue to the tabs and add the base to the tabs. Take your tier 1 cube, sit it inside tier 2, fold in the top tabs, and we're now going to add glue into each of the corners. And you can obviously at this stage, if you're not happy with the way your top tier is sitting inside, you could just trim off slightly from the edge of your tabs. So just keep fitting as you go along. Once that's dry, you'll see that tier 1 pulls up and sits at the top like so. I would now add my DSP to the outside of this tier before I put it in the next tier. Now make up tier 3, and once you've decorated the outside of tier 3, just place tier 2 inside tier 3 and make sure that it does fit in nicely. I'm going to trim a little off the sides of mine. This really is one of those projects where you need to test everything as you go along. I'm just going to cut a sliver off to stop that catching. Fold in your top tabs. And again, you can see I stuck mine down too early, didn't test, and then my box didn't fit. So fold in the tabs and make sure your box fits in. And I'm just going to cut the tiniest piece off of the top of these tabs, and I'm going to use my trimmer. Place that back in again, fold that down, and before you glue it, just make sure that it's going to move up and down snugly but freely. I'm going to use tape for these corners as I've been struggling with getting my glue to stick. Now, if it's your intention to only have 3 tiers, you'll cut a piece of cardstock which is 4 inches by 4 inches, fold in the tabs at the bottom and add your base. If, however, you want to add another tier, cut a square which is 5 by 5 and cut a square out of the middle as we have done previously. Add this to the base, and then to create your 4th tier you'd have a cube which is 5 inches by 5 inches. Therefore you would cut 2 pieces of cardstock which were 10.5 by 6. You'd score along the 6-inch side at 1/2 and 5.5, and along the 10.5-inch side at 5 and 10. And you would construct your cube in exactly the same way. And you'll do that for each additional tier you decide to add. Each time you just need to ensure the next cube is 1 inch bigger. Once you get to your base cube, fold your tabs under and cut your base the same size as your last cube, so in this case 4 by 4. This Tier 3 project has probably used roughly 5 pieces of A4 cardstock, so just bear that in mind. So I'm going to add my base and set that aside to dry. Here's the project, which is now ready for further embellishment and personalisation. You can see that the box fits nicely inside each other. Obviously, this will have a decorative element on the top, and then the boxes pull up and stand very easily. I have enjoyed putting this project together, although it has at times tested my patience. It's definitely a slow and steady wins the race kind of project. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell for future videos. Until next time, thanks for watching.